Hey friends, this is Jeff. Big month for us on YouTube and Patreon. We will continue to release our best content on these platforms moving forward. Well worth subscribing to Patreon and YouTube. The links are in the show notes. And speaking of Patreon, all of our Patreon releases flow easily into your podcast feed. So once you sign up, you can simply listen to them right there on your podcast platform of choice. This November 2024, we will be posting 3 very long, like 2-3 hour long interviews with the most informed people we know about their Enneagram type. The first up is Dr. Mary Slattery, Enneagram Six. Dr. Slattery has studied Enneagram under all the most amazing thinkers and routinely elevates the hearts of sixes in ways I have heard nowhere else. Lots of clarity and wisdom, and her interview will post November 8th. Next is the Joel Stabile, talking shop about Enneagram Sevens. Joel, likewise, may have more conversations with Enneagram scholars than anybody else on the planet, and he is able to articulate the heart of sevens with real insight and understanding. That will post on November 15th. And lastly is our good friend Erica Jobs. Erica had one of the very first Enneagram podcasts, and as an Enneagram 8 has sat in this material for over 10 years. Her perspective on Enneagram is different than ours, but she is also responsible for some of the real breakthroughs TJ and I have had in understanding Enneagram. This is some of our best work and will be the Patreon releases for November. Then, coming in December 2024, we are going to release the next 3 drafted chapters of our upcoming book, Around the Circle. So more than half of our new book is up online for you to digest. Again, if you sign up for a paid membership prior to January 1st, we will send you 2 signed books. In 2025, we will send you the physical published version of Around the Circle next year, as well as a signed first edition of my first book, 7. We will also answer up to 3 Enneagram questions per month for you, and you will get the sheer joy and delight of helping us help other people find and enjoy the Enneagram. That's our plug. Thanks for listening. May all good things be yours. I'm Jeff Cook.
And I'm TJ Wilson.
And this is Around the Circle.
I'm walking slowly, I'm taking my time. All like a talking is starting to rhyme. I'm letting go of lonely, letting go of strife. I just can't get enough of this beautiful life.
The Enneagram is a map of the human personality. It's a tool for navigating relationships. It creates language for what motivates us and helps us look at the way we look at everything else. Most importantly, the Enneagram's a mirror because sometimes you need help seeing yourself. My name's Jeff Cook. I'm a philosopher in Greeley, Colorado, and with me is TJ Wilson, businessman, lover of theology, and Enneagram ninja.
Hello.
My man.
Hey.
We are asking 10 questions to some of our favorite people.
10 questions. You know I'm still going to try to get that down to 9 at some point, right?
I have not heard this as an ambition of yours.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Which one gets cut?
I don't know. That's part of the problem.
Oh,
Really
you just want it to be
questions.
a clean 9.
Yeah. I'm not looking to cut one. I want it to be 9.
9 questions.
Yeah.
All right, well, who really cares about your biggest strength anyway? We are joined today by a guest. We have our good friend, Dr. Mary Slattery, is with us. Mary, you do really impressive work, especially it's the sort of work I would not normally associate with sixes. Would you like to introduce yourself and what you're up to?
All right. I am a middle school principal, which,
Ooh, middle school.
they're kind of evil. So if you don't love them, you shouldn't be around them because they're
Right.
fantastic, but they're also middle school kids. So
Yeah.
Lots of energy.
yeah. And so all over the place.
Yeah.
My wife is a teacher, and when she was doing her prep, like she wanted to teach high school, but when she was doing like the training and sort of like the student teaching stuff, she really loved her middle school experience. And a big part of it was because they're right at the age where they understand sarcasm, but they don't think they're smarter than you yet.
Yeah. They're super fun. And it's kind of like kindergartners, except they're big and they can go to the bathroom by themselves. And they're super fun. And it's right before they get sassy into high school.
Yeah.
But they can do a ton of stuff. So it is a lot of fun.
Nice.
It's delightful. Well, we are asking our 10 questions to Mary, who's going to stand in as one of the most informed sixes who I've ever spoken to. And I'm super thrilled she made time for our conversation. So Mary routinely joins us on Zoom and has insights that just consistently pop for me. So we're going to jump into some good questions. You got anything before we jump into each?
I don't think so. I'm ready to do it.
Bang. TJ, you know some stuff about sixes. Why don't you give your take on sixes, and then we'll ask the expert.
Yeah, well, granted, I do have a particular bias for sixes. My wife and partner is a six, and so a lot of my information
That would be the same person, by the way.
Yes, yeah, my wife and partner is the same person, and she is a six. There's a sense of needing to be prepared is like a too soft of a way to say it. Like there's a need for support, security, resources, all of the things that will help us meet whatever challenges are facing us. And I say that in a big and sort of vague way because it's all encompassing. It's everything that I might have to face. I need to be prepared. I need to know that I have people in my corner. I need to know that I have the right resources, that I have the right information to get into to face whatever. But it's all about that desire to feel safe, secure, stable, prepared. I think is a really good, and it all stems from this like doubt that lives in the core of them, and they doubt themselves, they doubt everyone else, they doubt that things are going to work, because lots of things that are supposed to work break all the time, and sixes want to be prepared for what happens if things break.
When things break.
Yes, that's much better. When things break, because it happens.
Because they do.
Yep.
If you were going to just describe sixness to somebody who's Enneagram informed, what comes to your mind, Mary?
It kind of funny, TJ, when you said wife and partner, one of the things I thought about as I was looking through some of these questions is just the amount of contradiction that a six is.
Yeah.
And we're almost like two people, like a wife and a partner. But it's like, a lot of it is this contradiction of all I want is security, and I don't trust the security I do have. Yeah. And I want to trust somebody, but I don't even trust myself. So I don't trust somebody else. And I want the greater good for everybody, but I also want to make sure that all the little things are taken care of, each little person. And so sometimes we are a wife and a partner, and we're a little bit of both because you're a contradiction of terms. And so that was kind of what I was thinking as I was looking through some of this stuff, is that we're kind of a contradiction in terms of what we are as sixes. Is what we long for, we inherently can't get. One, because nobody's going to be able to give us all of those things, but also because we don't even trust the little bits of it as we do get it. So it takes a long time to build that trust for it.
And I really like the way that you said that, particularly the tail end of that, because it's a good reminder that like I really want peace and harmony, and a lot of the stuff that I do prevents me from getting peace and harmony because I don't put enough effort into it. Like we all have something like this. I think sixes get a pretty bad rap about how they distrust the world, and we all have something like this. Sixes flavor may be a little bit more noticeable, but if we all look inside, like the thing we want most, we're also often actively working against. So it's good.
Or trying to get it in a way that prevents us from getting it almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say that Riso and Hudson have a chart like that in Wisdom of the Enneagram, but for those of you who want to dive in, it's near the back somewhere. But it's but I can see it. That's a great description in terms of sixes and how you feel in the world and engage the world and what some of the struggles might be. To build into that, our first big Enneagram question for jumping into who are you is what do you want? And that gets teased here. When you think about sixes and your sixness, what is it that you want most, or how would you describe your motive?
I think so much of it is about the safety, the security, the assurances almost, and the reliability, the guarantee, which again are those things that you can't have because things happen, things still happen. You can't be guaranteed that, the best laid plans, as they say, you can make a lot of contingencies and you spend a lot of time spinning on some of those contingencies that don't come true, where that time could be better spent in other ways. So I think the idea of looking at that, trying to look for assurances and security and knowing what's going to come next, which isn't real.
Yeah.
What do you hear there? I haven't heard the words guarantee and assurances, and I think those are really helpful.
I love that, and it immediately makes me think of the movie Tommy Boy and like the idea of putting a guarantee on the box. Right. And like the guarantee on the product doesn't actually mean anything, because you're basically saying, if our thing breaks, I promise I'll replace it. That doesn't mean it won't break. And that doesn't mean it won't be a whole headache to get through the process of getting a replacement. Like the guarantee that sixes are looking for is that peace of mind, that assurance. I love that word assurance, that you will be taken care of, that you won't be in danger, that you will have enough of what you need. And yeah, our world is filled with uncertainty.
As you said that about the warning label on the box, it made me think of something that I had written about, was the idea of people coming with labels, and especially fraud alert. I want to know the people who are trying to, who are saying one thing or doing one thing and are somehow being disingenuous or not really what they are.
Whenever I write down stuff about sixes and motive, it always comes out relational. And I'm checking myself on this as you're speaking, that I often think that there is a motive in sixes to first partner or find themselves in a group and to relate to the group, and that the motive is satisfied that way. Am I wrong there? Or is it like can you be a really healthy six all by yourself?
I'm not sure. All by yourself, how do you do that? So it was kind of interesting because in some of your stuff, you talk about the idea of sixes always being about greater good and community, but I'm a 1-to-1 six. And so I think for me, shoring up that 1-to-1 is more important, or I struggle more with the social, where unless I have those individual connections with people.
Right.
So, I'm a middle school principal, so I'm always looking at the greater good for the school. I'm always looking at that big picture of, I learned early on, I don't say yes to something in the hallway because I have to think about all the other people and all the other things that might impact. And so that big picture thing is always in the back of my mind. I'm always looking at the yes to you means a no to somebody else, or the yes to you might mean everybody gets it. It might be, that was such a great idea. Why can't I say yes to all the people who want to have this thing and didn't think about it? And so kind of trying to work through that. But I think as a 1-to-1, I really feel that need to make those individual connections as well as the big picture, greater good kind of stuff.
Yeah, you got thoughts on that, TJ?
Yeah, I just thinking about the fact of you being a principal, like that at some point the buck stops with you, right? And I know my partner has no desire for administration, but she would never want to be in the top level leadership position.
Oh yeah.
And a big part of that is because she needs to be assured that she's part of the group. And as a principal, you're kind of not part of the group. And so like the way of thinking about your organization as something that you were looking out for, it's often the case that sixes won't want to be the top of the thing that they align themselves to. But to say that they only find themselves in those relationships where they feel safe, I think it may be missing a little bit of depth, because I think you're a great example that that it's not necessarily purely relational to find safety and security.
Maybe I can push into this, that guarantees and assurances actually have a relational component. Yeah. Like in terms of, if my motive is I want to guarantee, that it's a guarantee from somebody. Yeah. Unless you are gaining that from yourself, can you guarantee something from yourself? Can you assure yourself? I suppose you can assure yourself.
Well, I think that's part of it. There isn't assurance from the self.
There you go. So
there's no trust there.
Seeking it from others. I suppose that's why I think every time I write out stuff about sixes, it tends to have just a heavy relational component to it in terms of motive, whereas that doesn't always happen with the other types.
Sure.
And I think the other side of that is that I am always looking to be able to be a guarantee or an assurance when I put my word on something. So once I have agreed to do something, or once I have thought through it enough, I want to make sure I can live up to that. I don't like to put myself out there without being able to be pretty consistent with my follow-up on being able to make sure that happens.
Yeah. First question, what do I want? Second question is, how do I see the world? We come to the world, we experience the world a certain way. That filters and determines much of the things we actually do want. Sixes are a head type, so they bring in the world through their head and their analytic filter. You got thoughts, Tej, on sixes and their intelligence center?
Yeah, we've used a lot of the buzzwords several times already, but like resources, information, the collection of data in order to put things in a rational order, like the head center is all about managing the information and like figuring out what needs to go where. Does this piece of information need to be thrown away? Is this stuff out of order? Like managing resources and information and being sure that the correct information is in its place is what helps us get to a place of preparedness, right? And so bringing in all of the world through that center, that head center, like sixes want to know what's happening. They want to know what they need to plan for. They want to get all of the information so that they can do something with it. And that's all about their desire for preparedness and stability.
How would you talk about that, Mary, in your own way?
Yeah, there's so much running around in my head all the time, the thinking and more thinking and a lot of thinking and thinking about what I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of work for me to get out of my head and to be able to connect to my body, to connect to my heart, to my feelings, I think about what I'm feeling. I think about what I'm doing. I think about what my body is doing. Sometimes I just had to go to physical therapy and he was like, put your foot facing forward. I'm like, you mean it's not? And it's just that, sometimes you just kind of get that rote thing, but it's, you kind of stepping outside from your body, from that, being able to think through all the stuff and have all the information, and all is not possible. Again, it's right. that you can't have all the information. And so what I try to do is think about making the best decision that I can at the time with the information that I have. And that might change. It might change in a week. It might change in an hour. Being an educator during COVID taught us a lot about decisions at the time.
Yeah.
We actually, on occasion, when we were meeting with our administrative team, we did a lot of Zoom meetings over the summer while we were planning to go back to school. It was like at 10:39 on Tuesday, this is the information we have, and this is the decision we're making.
Mm-hmm.
It might be different at 10:49. It might be different in an hour and 10 minutes. But so trying to get to the point of thinking about what I can confidently do going forward right now with what I know.
The thing that I'm hearing there is corresponds with what do I want? You're searching for the information, but the information's coming at you, and then the desire takes over. And so information-wise, you're searching for the guarantees, the assurances, the safety,
right,
the security. What these are it's not just that you're experiencing the world, but it's almost like those, I assume, are kind of the neon signs, both the threats and the solution to potential threats. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where sometimes the people that you can trust become a louder voice in that. Somebody who has stepped up for me, somebody who has been a guarantee in the past, somebody who has been able to be reliable and follow through is louder to me than the person who says stuff but doesn't follow through, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
More weight to their thoughts.
Love that. You got other thoughts on head types, TJ?
I mean, all my other thoughts bleed into other questions. So
Solid. Brings us to our third question. Our third question is, what's my biggest obstacle as a 6? And for this, we end up talking about our underlying feelings. Underlying feelings of 5, 6s, and 7s is fear or anxiety. You got set up for that, TJ?
yeah, it's so all three of the head types, 5, 6, 7s, that are gathering resources, gathering information, because there is this built-in sense of things might go badly, of I won't have enough, of something happening that I won't be ready for. And like we call that fear. And so this is all about like having that sense be a sort of driving force to say, like, the motive is about feeling safe and secure because we have all these fears we need to address.
Yeah. How would you frame this, Mary?
So this was the one where when it said, what is my biggest obstacle? My first thought was me. And I started, as I was reading through it, this is where the contradiction kind of came out a little more. Like I rely on myself too much, and so I try to do it myself, but then I doubt myself. And then I try to get somebody else's input, which I also doubt. And then I'd rely on myself, it's like this cycle of not trusting myself, not trusting somebody else. This was a big area of contradiction that I thought. And then I think oftentimes I get in my own head so much about this that I can be my own contradiction and my own biggest obstacle. And so just being in my head so much of the time and distrusting other people, I can get in my own way so much with that.
Right. I hadn't put this together, but it seems like this may be one of the primary reasons for the strong relationality of 6s is that if you come to the world and doubting yourself is a primary, turning to others would be a natural next step, I assume, especially turning to others that you think are stronger, reliable, informed, can provide you the guarantees and assurances that you crave. Am I wrong there?
No, but it's then until they let you down.
Yeah, right.
And then you doubt them. And then it's that back and forth again of sometimes it's nice to have that sounding board, and all you need to do is kind of talk through it to get to your own answer. But sometimes because you've talked through it, now you're taking in somebody else's opinion and you're not sure if they disagree with you, where you're going with that. So, that sounding board piece is an important part, is trying to balance. I need somebody else often if I'm just talking through it to kind of figure out where I want to go with it. But it's a balance of someone that I trust enough to give me honest feedback, but not so much that I'm going to just follow them. So it's that balance of if they're the authority, and I guess some of that is my counterphobicness, is that I'm not necessarily always looking to that authority. A little example, when my superintendent had just started with us at the school, he had given me some feedback on my evaluation, and it was really very innocuous feedback. It was very, positive, but some areas to improve, because that's what feedback is on an evaluation. And I didn't know him very well, so I didn't have the level of trust that I have with him now.
Right.
And I went to him and I was like, if you want me to find a new job, I'd be happy to look elsewhere. And he was like, what just happened?
Right.
Where did you go? And why did you all of a sudden jump to needing a new job? And it was like, well, you told me that this, that. And he's like, Yeah, because that's an area we've been working on together. None of this should come as a surprise. You should know this kind of thing. And so it was like, oh, you don't actually think I'm terrible at what I do. He's like, no, you're great. But it's sometimes, if you don't have the right level of trust, had he given me that feedback now, we've been working together for 12 years, I would have probably predicted his feedback, because we work so closely together now that we have a really good trusting relationship. I know the things I need to work on. He and I talk about them all the time. I feel like when I get stuck on something, I am comfortable going to him and saying, hey, I've been working on this. I don't feel like he doubts that I've actually worked on it. He knows how much I've worked on it because I put a lot into it before I would go to somebody. But then I would be able to go to him and say, but I'm not sure what my next step is with this, or I haven't had to deal with this before. And he's a good sounding board for me, as opposed to necessarily saying, do this and this and this. He helps talk me through it. But it's that it took a little while to get that trust, where I didn't think every comment was, you're terrible at what you do, you don't know what you're doing, and him doubting me. I now see it as conversational and that we can discuss things, but that's a big thing of trust. And on the other side of that, being someone who does evaluations for teachers all the time, one of my big things, and I say this to my teachers at the beginning of the year, I say it to them throughout the year, my goal is to never surprise you at a meeting with something that you haven't heard from me before. If I have a concern about what's happening in your classroom, what you're doing as part of the team, what you're doing in the school, or your test scores, or any of those things, I will have a conversation with you before it's your evaluation in quotes kind of meeting, that this is the one time a year you get a chance to talk to me, which isn't the only way evaluations work, but that if there is a concern like that, I will have talked to you beforehand, because that's what I want someone to do to me.
Yeah, there it is. You want to know the rules by which you're being assessed, and extend that same privilege to those around you. It's again, what I'm hearing a lot here, and we're going to get to it, but the earning side of sixes, real strong there. I do like, and I haven't really heard this before, but the idea that trust would alleviate the need to earn, I think is real helpful, because as all types are trying to get what they want through their stance, and for ones, twos, and sixes, it's through earning. And I hadn't thought about the fact that there are some times where the earning ceases, and you're kind of not rescued from that, but it's softened, and it felt freeing as you were talking about that. So that's interesting. I need to think about it more. What you got, Teach?
And one of the things that we should directly mention that this fear comes from a sense of the future, and all of the fear is about the future. But I've noticed a lot of sixes have a tendency to, let's say, jump to conclusions. So like the idea that your boss would say, here are some things that aren't going well. The immediate thought is, oh, I'm about to get fired. And like I have 1/6 friend that I interact with pretty regularly, that even if I just come to her in a gentle way and put my hand on her shoulder because I'm going to tell her something serious, she immediately assumes that I'm really mad at her. And there's a tendency, because of that lack of trust, because of that fear wherever it sits, that the thing that's happening is going to be really bad. And
worst case scenario. Yeah.
You're already there. You're already there for like trying to handle what is the worst possible outcome of this thing. And handling that with it, because there is that future lens on basically all things that you're looking at. It's you are trying to be prepared for the next thing, and it's probably going to be the worst one.
All the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
All the things that might go wrong, as opposed to you might just be coming over to say, it could be very benign conversation, but you just, as a 6, we automatically go to all the things that could be wrong and all the things I could have done that upset you or disappointed you. And that goes back to that relational piece, I think, that you've been talking about, Jeff.
Friends, it's just the first quarter of our interview with Dr. Slattery, and the rest is truly amazing. In it, we are going to walk through the remaining 7 big questions that the Enneagram answers, specifically for sixes. Members can listen to it all on our Patreon. Patreon is an investment, kind of like paying for a health club or a really great app. And we are very excited here. We already have 50 folks who have jumped in, which allows us to create and do even more here. As a member, you're going to receive all 9 of the upcoming interviews of this sort. So this is going to be, what is that going to be? That's going to be like 20 hours worth of just great, fantastic deep dives into each of the types. We're going to send you a signed copy of our upcoming book, Around the Circle, and you can read the first few chapters there already. We're also going to be releasing the audio version of the book this spring, only on Patreon, and also in early 2025, we're going to release a full video college-style course on Enneagram. So lots of stuff there. In short, we are going to pack Patreon with everything you need to grow here. Patreon is a small investment. It's a small investment in your heart, in your family, in your self-understanding, and we're committed to making this incredible here in the next year. So jump in. The link to our Patreon is in the show notes, or you can simply search for Around the Circle Patreon to listen to the rest of this interview and everything else that we're going to be releasing. We are so grateful for you all. We are so grateful for those of you who have already signed up and put your trust in us. And as we move into 2025, friends, may you be gifted every good thing.